The Papa John story. I was a blessed man, and that a lot of my success came from the simple, the timing. I didn't have to live through the Great Depression. I missed World War II. I was in the middle of the manufacturing boom when the women went to work and added to the productivity, which we'll talk to you in a second. I was involved. I started the business in '83, '84. Reaganomics kicked in from '80 to '88. And so, as they say, I had the best of it, and the generation in front of me had the best of it. Not only did we have a pro-market economy with low crime, we also had the stigma from the Great Depression, which filtered into our parents and grandparents in to be cautious and save and to work hard. And so I had the best of it. And what disappoints me today is I'm not sure I could do in 2011 with everything I know that I did in 1984 to present, simply because of the environment, the sheer bureaucracy and the weight of government. And we'll talk to that here in a second also. But when I was 8, my grandfather would call me on a Friday and said, "You going to come over to work?" And I said, "Papa, I got baseball practice." He said, "Well, I'll come over in the morning and pick you up and you'll work." And my grandfather and my dad instilled in me from the get-go that you are to work every day and you work hard. My dad had a hot dog stand at the University of Kentucky where he actually made hot dogs and put himself through college. This is a picture of my grandfather and my dad. My dad was the youngest city judge in the state in its history. My grandfather was first in or top of his class in both school of law and accounting at U of L in '43, and they were two great men. My dad had 12 businesses. All of them failed. My grandfather had 3, and all of them were winners. My dad was not as scared to take a risk. My grandfather said, "You can take a risk, but if you do, you got to make it work." And so for my dad and Papa's entrepreneurship and them teaching me the value of a work ethic, at 10 years old, my brother and I had a grass cutting company where we'd take Papa's lawnmower and tools and trimmers and gasoline, and we'd cut everybody's grass in the block. And so at a young age, entrepreneurship set in with me and my brother. At 12 or 13, we were painting gutters, had a gutter company, had a solar heating company at 16, and just fell in love with business. And at Rocky Sub Pub when I was 15, I was washing dishes, and that's when I bought the car. And right across from Rocky's was where the wash dishes was where they made pizzas. And you weren't allowed to make a pizza unless you were a Fondrisi, John or Frank Fondrisi. And so I hated washing dishes. They had an article in the Saturday Scene that wrote up Rockies. They got so busy, the Fondrisis had to go to the front of the house and sit people down. And I got promoted to making pizzas, which was an honor, a true honor at 15. And I fell in love with making pizzas at 15. Went to college, finished in 3 years, and came back, and Dad had the tavern, which was bankrupt. Sold the car for $2,800. That was the seed money we used to get Daddy out of bankruptcy. And we were $64,000 in bankruptcy, and about 3 or 4 weeks into it, we realized how bad it was. And Dad said, "You can't fix this." And I said, "Dad, I think I can." And by December 1st of '84, we had the bar solvent. We borrowed $32,000 from Clark County State Bank. We paid off the other $32,000. And the point of all that is that by the time I was 22, I had instilled in me a work ethic. My mother taught me to save, and I found something I love to do, which is pizzas, which to this day I love everything about pizzas, and we'll talk to that. And furthermore, I found something I was good at, which was running the business. And so kind of a unique set of situations. We started selling pizzas out of the back of the broom closet with $1,600 worth of used restaurant equipment from Tony Manley, 3 blocks down the road at Food Equipment Supply. The first store was 3 miles down the road at Gateway Plaza. Our best week we ever had our first year was $1,100. We thought we were rich in a broom closet doing $1,100 a week. But people liked the pizza. And then we built Clarksville, and then we built New Albany, and then we built the state, and then I think the rest is kind of history. And as I look back on that, the real secret of Papa John's was we never wavered from what I would call fundamental principles. In '94, we started surveying the company going, okay, the successful people in the company, what makes them special? And without hesitation, everyone exemplified what we call Papa John's core values, Papa John's fast pack, if you will, was simply focus, accountability, superiority, Papa, attitude, constant improvement. Focus is keep the main thing the main thing. Accountability is you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. People are priority ones always, especially if they're the right people. Attitude, if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're right. And constant improvement. Always trying to exceed the previous best. That was the attributes and that was the grooves by which the successful folks at Papa John's demonstrated. So from there we put in the framework of Papa John's, of what to this day is really the scaffolding or the skeleton that holds Papa John's together. The managers in the store are bonused on the exact same thing that I'm bonused on, Tony Thompson's bonused on, Lance Tucker's bonused on. Pizza scores, service, sales, and profitability. From top to bottom, we are totally aligned. We believe in the head coach model, which is self-serving honesty, versus a kingship model, which is self-serving dishonesty. Our business is about win-wins. We want our suppliers to make money. We want our franchisees to make money. For example, we have a food distributor. We distribute the product to all our stores. We have a captive audience. It is very easy to take advantage of the franchisees in that situation, and I've seen that happen before when I've stepped aside. We are very fanatical. In fact, none of the officers are bonused on the food service. They are not allowed to have profit sharing on the food service because I want them focused on making sure the stores make money. The food service has three purposes. One is, and most importantly, to provide quality to the stores. Every pizza in the whole world, the sauce comes from the same place, same 10-mile radius. 98% of the cheese comes from the same plant. The reason being is I can control, and Tony can control, one tomato plant. We can control one cheese plant. We can't control hundreds of plants throughout the world. So we're very disciplined and very fanatical about the quality of the products. Two is to protect the unit economics. As long as the stores are making money, we're going to have a healthy model. You need three things in business: a passion for what you do, be the best in your class, and have a unit economic model that works. The average Papa John's is a $200,000 investment, and the average corporate store this year, our 600 stores, will average about $850,000. Extremely strong unit economics. And third and last is we make a profit at food service. We try to make 3%. We don't borrow a lot of money. We actually could pay our business off in a matter of months. We do have $45 million in debt, but we have $35 million in the bank. So very conservative. And better ingredients, better pizza. I was actually in the lab this morning working on pan pizza. We are totally fanatical about it getting better. It is not a slogan. It is a way of life, i.e. Papa John's is the only pizza company out there that can say sausage and beef. Everybody else has to say sausage topping or beef topping because they have fillers, artificial coloring, artificial flavors, TVP. Our beef is real beef. Our sausage is real sausage. That's why we can say that. If you're going to say better ingredients, better pizza, you need to walk the talk. We have a passion to be best in our class. We believe in growing our people from within, and we'll talk to why this is important. We talked here a second ago about the framework and the scaffolding, but long and short of it, it takes probably a year or two for people to get indoctrinated on how we go about our business. So when we bring somebody in from the outside, it takes a long period of time to get up to speed on the scaffolding, and as a result, you burn a lot of emotional and mental firepower trying to bring people up, and that's why at Papa John's, people coming from the outside usually don't last long. The people from the inside, the longevity is actually incredible. I'm talking 15, 20 years. Plus, we believe in dealing with reality. You know, the saying is, and I think that's the problem with our government right now, they just do not want to look at the numbers. But the saying is, you're awake, you go to sleep, you're asleep, you think you're awake, you wake up to the nightmare, you don't like what you see, you go back to sleep. Sooner or later, you have to wake up and deal with the nightmare, deal with the facts, and we are fanatics about the brutal facts. If we make a decision that takes 10 months, and all of a sudden another piece of data comes along that is a game changer, we will change our mind that quick. We do not lock into something. We will cut our losses and go with the better decision. And if you run the business with integrity and you do have a people growing machine, you should be able to develop, and you should be in a proactive position. I don't like to see our execs in a reactive position. You're going to be reactive enough in this business just because of stuff that's out of your control. But the things that we can control, I'm very keen on. Let's get ourselves in a proactive position. So over a period of time, we have gotten away. I've tried to retire 2 or 3 times, and every time I do, we have a downturn in sales, a downturn in stock price, etc. And it's not because I'm a good manager or particularly a good leader or any smarter or work any harder. It's that by building the company, I know where every piece of equipment in every commissary, every oven in every store, the temperatures of the oven. We could, within 10 minutes, give you every tomato farmer that makes our tomatoes. We understand the scaffolding of our business. And if you stray away from the scaffolding, it will tank Papa John's. It takes about 2 years to screw it up, and it takes about 1.5 years to fix it. And so, yeah, the good news is it is fixable. And that's a big deal about this talk, because I'm going to come back to this and hit this nail a few more times. The bad news is that there are times when I'm a prisoner of my own creation. And so as we're bringing these leaders along, we've got to indoctrinate them to the scaffolding so that they're walking the talk and they're not doing anything to harm our business long term. And again, the reason there's a little bit of disagreement on how to run the business is simply time frame. I'm looking out at the health of business 4 or 5 years. And if you're a public company and you get stock options, some professional managers are looking at it per quarter, which we found is very healthy and runs contradictory to our scaffolding. Okay, the point of all that is we believe the United States of America was founded on a certain framework, certain skeletons, certain principles, a certain mindset, and I'm very concerned that that framework is in jeopardy. The Declaration of 76 and the Constitution of 88, the Bill of Rights, it is tough to read between the lines. But if you read the forefathers' history, their mindset was not difficult. Jefferson and Adams basically authored the Constitution. Adams did most of the heavy lifting, but let Jefferson take most of the credit simply because Jefferson was more articulate, Adams wasn't well liked, and Jefferson was a Virginia. In fact, I think they had one major fight on the Constitution. That was Jefferson wanted all men are created equal. Adams' argument was, metaphorically, if you're 7 foot tall, you play basketball. If you're 5 foot tall, weigh 100 pounds, you make a good jockey. All men are not created equal, but should be treated equal. And they fought back and forth on that concept. And, of course, Jefferson won, and we have the Constitution. But when they were drafting the Constitution, there was an argument on the concept of democracy. And, again, Adams did the heavy lifting on history as far as socialism, Marxism, et cetera. But there wasn't much argument on capitalism. The forefathers understood capitalism very well because most of them were businessmen, most of them were farmers. And so a couple of the forefathers, the incumbent of the generation is to pay its own debts as it goes along. And what's beautiful about reading the history on the forefathers is they're very clear and very succinct. There's no reading between the line. Franklin, a penny earned. Penny saved is a penny earned. Jefferson, back to I place the economy, which is where we're at today. And by the way, over the last 230 years, supply and demand has not changed. Human nature has not changed. Marketplaces have not changed. It's more sophisticated. It moves more quickly. But human nature is human nature. Common sense is common sense, and supply and demand is supply and demand. That has not changed. A placed economy among the first and most important virtues, and public debt as the greatest of dangers. I mean, this is before we were $14 trillion in debt. He's predicted this. To preserve our independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. Hamilton, it's essential that the credit of the nation should be well established. Jefferson even went so far as to say he actually wanted an amendment to the Constitution, an article taking from the federal government the ability to borrow. Franklin, always with his humor, rather go to bed than wake without dinner, without waking up in the morning without debt. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who will not work. And he predicted happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of people under the pretense of taking care of them. To put our perspective in context globally, our debt, this slide was 2010, we were 12 trillion, now we're 14 trillion. So they're running this thing up as fast as, almost faster than you can print the slides. But if you look at Japan, 430 billion in debt, UK 185 billion, France all the way down to Greece at 23 billion. These are rounding errors at our $14 trillion. Probably even more concerning is the percent of GDP. Has gone from 40%, which you could argue is too high or too low, and I'm sure the forefathers would have, to almost 200% of GNP today. Again, bailing George Washington, don't bail out debt with more debt. And it's almost taken a parabola kind of shape. I mean, the numbers are so ludicrous, and sooner or later the realities of mathematics always set in. Math and arithmetic are not an opinion. Our kids are going to, and grandkids are inheriting this, and I'm very concerned. Jefferson is incumbent on every generation to pay the debt. Hamilton, again, we got to make sure the credit of the nation is healthy. And you contrast this with Bernanke. Bernanke's mindset on money, M1, which we've printed about 400 trillion the last 2 years. So on a 15 trillion GDP with 14 trillion in debt, 400 trillion is come from printing M1. The mindset is, and by the way, if you have funny money, all you're doing is destroying the value of the dollar. We don't have inflation right now. We do not have inflation. It's simply we're in a global market, and when you print money at this pace, you devalue the dollar. So there's not inflation going on, it's devaluation of the dollar. I was going through Wendy's the other day and got a hamburger, double cheeseburger, and it was $5.27. And I'm thinking, how does a young man or young woman at $7.25 an hour pay for a hamburger? So Ben Bernanke, the U.S. government has a technology. He was being cute. That's what he said. Called a printing press that allows us to produce as many U.S. dollars as we wish at no essentially cost. Extremely dangerous mindset. Okay, what happens, or what potentially could happen if you tinker with the scaffolding like we did at Papa John's, or like we've seen of the country? The dollar goes south. Dollar was worth $100 100 years ago, is now worth $3. The purchasing power, this is against the yen, the last decade. Let's turn the euro here. The euro's going up, the dollar's struggling. Property values, the foreclosure rate has tripled. This year, housing at median prices are down 8%. And the percentage of homes that are past 90 days due have gone up 500%. What happens to unemployment? We're reading those numbers every day. More concerning is probably the amount of time that people are unemployment. We've gone from 20% unemployed for 6 months to 40%, 100% increase. And that doesn't really factor in real unemployment, which is closer to 16 to 18 versus 8 or 9. So if I could summarize the situation, my concern is that the big government spending and a social entitlement mindset actually hurts the very people that they pretend to help. It seems to, pinch or strain the upper class. The middle class is shrinking, and it seems to be going away, but it seems to be the lower middle class and the poor that are devastated by these policies. Let's take California, for example, since I use California because California's broke. California owes some $400 billion. If you took that times all 50 states, we're at a $20 trillion number. California's checking account is overdrawn and has been for the last 6 months. One time it was $25 billion overdrawn. They've rolled that back into $17 billion. And what happens to the Chamber's perspective on this is companies leave this kind of situation.